At the beginning of the story, we see a boy going to a store. He looks very sad and dejected while buying something. He thinks to himself, I'm sick of this. Instead of a triangle kimbap that has hard rice and very little filling, I want warm, shiny rice with different ingredients in it. Instead of a can of beer with a mild taste and little bubbles, I want a beer with a strong scent and the right amount of bubbles. Then he buys kimbap and beer and returns to his house. Again, he starts thinking sadly while eating, instead of this place, I would like to go somewhere else where I can enjoy life with everyone. We learn that this boy belonged to an ordinary family. His family was very hard-working. After finishing school, he got into a good university, and by chance landed a job at a reputable company. But one day, both his mother and father passed away. Because of this, he fell into depression and remained that way for 4 years. Suddenly, he loses his job. Now he is working at a small game development company. While thinking about all this, he smells cigarette smoke coming from the direction of his window. When he goes to see who is smoking, he opens the window and sees a gate to another dimension. He is quite surprised. At the same time, he receives a notification on his phone about the seal gate. He wonders, am I the only one who can see this gate? If this is some kind of gate to the future, that would be even better. Still, if this is a way to change my life, I'd like to try it. But how should I use it? He tries to put an item inside the gate, but it doesn't go through. He then realizes that none of his items can pass through except for the one he had kept with him. He thinks further, it could happen that if I go inside I may not be able to return, but it doesn't matter. Let's go inside. Upon entering the dimensional gate, he arrives at an old house. Looking around, he thinks, this house looks very old. Everything here must be expensive. He looks out the window and enjoys the view of the village. After a while, he notices a shiny paper on the side table. It is a contract related to the dimensional gate. According to the contract, he can travel back and forth between 2 places, but the gate will only work twice. There is also another item called the subspace pocket. This pocket is connected to the gate and can be used to lift any item from Earth as long as the item's weight is within a certain limit. To use it, you must place your right hand on the item and your left hand in empty space. There are no restrictions on what you bring in, but the only thing you can take back is gold. The boy is shocked to learn that he is initially being given 1,000 gold coins for staying there. He reads further, if you sign this contract, you will learn the language of the Manhwa Empire. You have 7 days to think about it. If you do not sign within 7 days, all memories related to this dimensional gate will be erased. If you die for any reason, the contract will be automatically destroyed. If you want to sign it, place your right hand on this paper. The boy thinks 7 days is too much. I'll just sign it now. As soon as he signs, he learns the language of the Manhwa Empire. The boy is welcomed into the empire and given the name Cho Isu. He wonders, what can I become in this world? A nobleman? A feudal lord? A wizard? Well, it doesn't matter for now. I just want to stay here and escape the small problems of my life. A lady says to him, did you not like the food? He replies, no, it's not like that. I was just thinking about something. Anyway, maybe this food won't be enough to satisfy me. He once checks his room to confirm whether he exchanged all the gold for cash. He plans to return to that place again, but he loses consciousness and falls asleep. When he wakes up, he notices that he looks much younger. His skin has become shiny, the color of his hair has changed, and his nose is a bit sharper. He jokes to himself that maybe money was deducted from his gold for this new face. He then goes back to the same village and wonders, will my phone work here? Well, I don't really need to use it while I'm here. Opening the window of his room, he is once again shocked by the beautiful view. He sees a lady in the room next to his. She sees him too. Yasu thinks, is she a villager? My eyes made contact with her. Should I greet her? But the lady speaks first and asks, who are you? Yoziu introduces himself. The lady replies, this house has been empty for a long time. Did you just move in? Who are you? Did you get permission from the village chief? Izu answers, I'm an adventurer. I'm planning to stay for a week. If I decide to stay longer, I'll ask the chief for permission. Then the lady says, since you're here, come and have a meal. Oishi didn't expect her to be so polite. Then he goes to have a meal with them. In the next scene we see him sitting down to eat, but the lady gives him just one bowl of soup. Seeing this, he feels that the food is very simple. However, looking at it, it seems delicious. Anyway, it's better to try eating here than sitting alone at home drinking beer and eating triangle kimbap. Since he's going to stay here for some time, he thinks he should get used to the food. He then asks the lady her name. The lady tells him her name is Maggie Humphrey. He further asks, "Do you stay here alone?" Aunt Maggie replies, "My husband has gone to the bar to work, and my son lives in another town. Tell me, where have you come from?" Isu says, "I have come from Sioux City, Korea." Aunt Maggie replies, "You've really come from quite far." Then Isu says, "Now I would like to try eating this. Anyway, there's no spoon or fork here, which means I'll have to dip this bread in the soup and eat it." Looking at the soup, Isu thinks, "This kind of soup is also sold in our city, but many other types of ingredients are usually added to it." Aunt Maggie asks, "Won't you eat this?" Isu replies, "No, I will eat it." Aunt Maggie says, "Eat it before it gets cold." Isu thinks, "The bread is a bit hard, but when I dip it in the warm soup, it becomes soft and actually tastes really good, but something is missing. Oh, black pepper." Then he says to Maggie, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you have black pepper?" Maggie looks a bit surprised and asks, "Did you not like the food?" Isu replies, "No, it's not like that. In our city, black pepper is added to every kind of soup, that's why I asked." Aunt Maggie responds, "Maybe it's cheaper where you live, but here it is very expensive, so expensive that only noble people can afford it. I've never bought it in my life." Isu thinks maybe she doesn't like talking about black pepper. Then he says, "This bread and soup are really delicious. There's a deep hint of corn in it that makes it taste so good." Aunt Maggie replies, "Don't talk so much, just eat it." Isu says, "Forgive me, but if you don't mind, can I know the recipe?" Aunt Maggie, who was making something, says, "Okay, you want to know the recipe? Fine, come behind me." Then both of them go out of the room. Isu thinks, "The air here is much nicer and fresher than the air of the city." Aunt Maggie says to him, "Come here." Isu starts following her. Then he asks, "By the way, what's the name of this village?" Aunt Maggie replies, "This is Laudine." Isu starts looking around. Aunt Maggie says, "What are you doing? Come here and look carefully." We see some ingredients kept there, which include corn powder, Aunt Maggie's homemade butter, and onions grown in Laudine. Then Aunt Maggie explains the process of making the soup. First, the butter has to be melted, then fry the chopped onions until they turn brown. Onion acts as a sweetener, so there's no need to add anything else sweet. Isu thinks, "I didn't know onion could be used like this in corn soup." Aunt Maggie continues, "Next is this corn powder. I bought this corn from a local trader. He said it's a new crop, so we won't be able to get it for some time." Isu thinks, "It seems corn isn't very common here." Maggie says, "I thought I'd try making powder from this corn. It actually worked, so I continued doing it this way. Just mix a little of the corn powder with the fried onion, then add water and milk together, and boil it on a low flame. Finally, just add a little salt. Now it's ready." Isu is amazed watching the soup being made. He thinks the process is so simple, but even if I try making it, it probably won't taste this good. Aunt Maggie starts going inside the house with the soup. Isu takes something out of his pocket and gives it to her as a gift. Aunt Maggie looks at it and is very surprised. It is a mirror that looks quite expensive. Isu says, "You invited me to your house for food, so this is a small gift from me." Aunt Maggie thanks him, but then rudely hands the mirror back to Isu. Isu thinks, why is she acting so cold now? Then he asks her for directions to the library. Aunt Maggie gives him the directions, and Isu puts the rest of his thoughts aside and heads toward the library. As he walks, we see him looking through a window where he notices a girl. When she sees Isu, she runs away. Isu thinks maybe she's shy. He continues walking and eventually reaches the library. Upon entering, he sees a boy with a name tag that reads Shara, who is eating something. The boy welcomes Isu. Isu greets him, "Good morning," and thinks, this man must be at least 30 years old. By the way, what is he eating? The boy says, maybe we haven't met before. Isu replies, I'm an adventurer who has come to this village for a short time. My name is Isu. I'm from Seoul City, Korea. Isu looks around the library and thinks, this is a library, but it's better than the bookshelf at my home. There are only around 50 books here. Maybe these are all rare books. Still, I don't understand one thing. Why is such a good man taking care of this library? The boy asks Is, have you come here to look for something? Isu replies, yes, can you give me a map of the IR Empire? The boy brings him a map. Isu asks, can I borrow it? The boy replies, no, only people of this village are allowed to borrow books from the library. You have to read them here. As Isu starts looking at the map, the boy also starts observing it with great curiosity, seeing which Isu thinks. He seems genuinely interested. He is very worried and thinks, I will have to flip the pages carefully. If a page gets torn by mistake, it will probably cause me a lot of trouble. Looking at the map, Isu says to the boy, this is a map, there's nothing on it except the sketch of the coastline and the continent. The boy replies, in Man it's illegal to put cities or villages on the map. He then points to a place and asks, is this Lauren village? Isu says to the boy, is it because of war? The boy responds, yes, that's why a detailed map can only be read by the royals and the military. Isu thinks, I hope there won't be a war here. I wouldn't like to live in this world, suffer the wrath and serve only the military people. Isu then asks the boy if war happens often there. The boy replies, it's not like that. Recently a wizard's family helped prevent war in our empire. Looking at the current situation, it seems unlikely that anyone would have the courage to attack our empire. Isu feels happy and thinks, it's good that I won't have to serve the military. Then the boy introduces himself and says his name is Hans. He is in charge of all tasks that require strength in the village. He says to Isu, if you're around my age, let's be friends. Isu tells him that he is 23 years old. Hans is shocked and says, do you use any drink or lotion to look young? I'm 17 years old. Isu is surprised to hear Hans's age. He didn't think Hans would be so young. Then both of them become friends. Isu asks Hans about the food he was eating. Hans says, this is bread with raspberries on it. First we cook the flatbread and leave it for a few days, then top it with different kinds of food. On this one I used crushed raspberries. Then Hans says to Isu, do you want to have a bite? Isu thinks, after seeing it, it doesn't look so tasty. Then Isu asks Hans, by the way, which is the nearest city around here? Hans replies, Pushing City is the closest, but it takes 3 days to reach there by car. Then which is the biggest city? Hans replies, Armenia City, but I've never been there. Some merchants come to our village and I've heard about it from them. It's the capital city of our empire. It takes more than a month to reach there by car. When Hans hears the sound of some people coming, he thinks the merchants have returned. He asks Isu, can you take care of the library at this time tomorrow? I need to go meet the merchants. Isu gets a little confused. Then Hans says that Isu can also get the things he needs from the library. Isu couldn't refuse. Both of them come outside, where we see some merchants. Isu feels very excited seeing them. He goes to say something to Hans but sees that Hans is already gone. Then we see Hans asking Aunt Maggie where the merchants went. Everyone is in a hurry. Hans wants to return home because he has to buy something and needs gold. After coming home he thinks he should take a shower. Then he thinks further, I cannot go from this world to the other world with anything. Going to another world wearing just underwear is a bit too much. It's strange, but what can I do? Then he thinks, yes, it's better to take my box of gold coins to the other world than to come and go again and again. That's why I need a subspace pocket. He goes to another place, takes 2 gold coins and heads out to meet the merchants. He goes to a restaurant where the merchants are going to stay. There are a lot of people there, which Isu finds very pleasant. He sees Aunt Maggie there. Aunt Maggie asks Isu, have you come to eat food? Well, you'll have to wait for it. Isu replies, no problem. Then Aunt Maggie says, I'll bring food for you in a while. Till then, drink this. Isu says, thank you, and starts thinking, If she gives me beer, how will it taste? I had beer before, will this one taste different? Then Ant serves him beer. Seeing it, he gets very surprised because he has been drinking this kind of beer for quite some time. He doesn't let even a single drop spill and drinks it completely. He finds the taste very delicious and drinks it again. Then Aunt Maggie comes over and says, "You'll have to give 1 silver and 5 copper coins in exchange for this drink." Isu gives her a gold coin. In return, he receives 8 silver coins and 5 copper coins as change. He thinks this means 10 silver coins are equal to 1 gold coin, so the cost of 1 cup of beer is around 15,000 won. Then he asks, "Do I have to pay separately for food as well?" Aunt Maggie says, "Don't worry, you've already paid for both. By the way, is the price of beer also cheaper in your city? Because here we get 1 cup of beer for 2 copper coins." She adds, "Well, now I'm going to prepare food for you." Isu says, "Till then, I'll enjoy this beer." He looks around. There are a lot of people, and he thinks he should go and talk to some of them. Then Hans comes, calling Isu. Hans says, "Have you also come here to eat?" Isu replies, "Would you like to join me?" Hans says, "No, I came to eat with my family. In our village, it's a rule to spend time with your family during meals. But my family gave me permission to go and meet the merchants. That's why I came here." That's when Isu gets to eat. This time the food was pork stew with bread. Isu thinks, "I also feel like eating with my parents." That's when Hans says, "Your food has come." Hans looks at the food and says, "This is usually eaten in winter, and now it's summer. But I'm sure it will still taste very good." After the meal, Hans says, "Let's go meet the merchants." Isu replies, "That's fine." Then he looks at the food and starts thinking, generally people keep pork like this for 2 days, but that can spoil it. That's why common people eat it as quickly as they can. Fresh pork juice and vegetable soup preparation tastes very delicious. At the same time, they've used essential herbs and salt, which gives it a unique taste. I remember this taste. My mother used to cook food like this. My mother used to make very spicy food, which I liked a lot earlier, but now I don't like spicy food. While thinking about all this, he remembers his mother a lot. When Isu is done eating, Hans asks him again, "Mr. Isu, what will you do now?" Isu says, "I'll go see the merchants." Hans gets excited and says, "Okay, let's go quickly." Then both of them go toward a small festival. Hans says, "You'll find a lot of things here." Aunt Maggie asks the price of a mirror. The shopkeeper says, 8 silver. Isu sees Aunt Maggie asking about the mirror and thinks, "I'm sure the one I tried to give her had better quality. Anyway, 8 silver is 80,000 won. If I were to sell 3 a day, 90 a month, I'd earn 7 million won a month. Awesome." Then Aunt Maggie asks for a cheaper mirror. The shopkeeper shows her a wizard's mirror for 3 silver coins. Aunt Maggie understands that this is a mirror made by a wizard. On the other side, Isu sees a man and thinks, "I've never seen this face before." The old man says to Isu, "Where did you come from?" Isu replies, "I am an adventurer from Korea. My name is Isu." The old man says, "It's my first time hearing such a name. It must be really far from here." Isu tells him, "It's a miracle that I came this far alive. By the way, how much does spice cost nowadays?" The old man replies, 6 gold per pound for black pepper, 6 gold for nutmeg, 1 gold for sugar, and salt is 2 copper. Isu thinks carefully. 1 pound is about 450 grams, so 1 kilogram of black pepper would be 12 gold. That's about 1.2 million won. That's awesome. Then he asks, "Is that standard followed everywhere in Armenia?" The old man replies, "Well, we can say that the prices are similar here and there." Hearing all this, Isu starts forming a detailed business plan in his mind. He thinks, considering the transportation fees, city taxes, and store rental fee, I think it's okay to sell it a little cheaper here. Judging by how they react, they must have increased the prices since they are dealing with innocent rural peasants. Anyway, spices are quite expensive here. If I just find a route to sell them, I might become the richest person in the Armenian Empire. If that happens, I'll be done with you, Manager Park. We see that the same girl starts watching Su from behind a tree. Isu starts asking the old man how much did it cost you to get the black pepper from the port. The old man replies, "Of course, I can't say that." Then Isu says, "Did I mention that black pepper is really cheap in the place I come from?" Isu gives an evil smile and continues, "If we talk about this further, I might be able to provide those at a reasonable price." The old man replies, "3 gold." Isu asks, "Where is that continent anyway?" He continues, "Since they come here and that reduces their burden of having to go to the big city, I think they will buy it for 2 gold coins, right? By the way, I'll ask other merchants too before deciding the exact price." Hearing these lines, the old man says, "So why don't you sell all the black pepper you have?" Isu starts looking at the man with suspicious eyes and says, "Looks like you're lacking in supplies, is that it?" The old man replies, "Of course I am. Every time this crop grows, the royal family and the elite people buy it. Because of that, ordinary people like us are not able to buy it even if we want to. That's why this time I could buy only 5 pounds of black pepper." Isu thinks, "I can understand why it's so expensive. It's brought from such a far distance. Even bringing 2 kilograms of black pepper from that far is a big deal." Then he says, "Forgive me, but for today I don't have anything." The old man gives him a card and says, "Take this." It was written on the card, "Spy Store, Colin Mug Wall, Central Market of Armenia City, Spice Street number 5. Then the old man says, "If a trade route opens to your continent, come to my store. And now, goodbye." In the next scene, Isu sees a kid sitting. He thinks he should go and talk to that kid. He goes to the kid and asks, "Hey kid, do you live here?" The kid says, "I'm not a kid. I'm 10 years old." Isu says, "Forgive me." Then the boy asks, "Where do you come from?" Isu replies, "From Korea." The kid says, "Liar, I've read 100 books but I've never heard of Korea. What are you talking about?" Isu says, "Do you know I'm 23 years old and I've read more than 1,000 books, yet there are still many things I don't know. And you think you know more than me?" The boy replies, "I'm the son of a general merchandiser. Mino strives. What about you?" Iso tells his name, to which the boy says, "That's a very intellectual name. By the way, since you've read thousands of books, are you rich? Because in this place thousands of books are equivalent to several 100 million won." Isu says, "Anyway, I have a question." The boy gets surprised and asks, "What do you want to ask me?" Then Isu gives him the same mirror and says, "Can you check this out? How much do you think this mirror would be worth?" The boy replies, "As long as it's sold officially, about 3 gold. Then Isu asks, "Sold officially?" The boy says, "With this quality I'm sure it's made with magic, but there isn't a seal that means this was made by an illegal wizard who wasn't approved by the royals." Then Isu asks, "So you mean it can't be sold? I guess I should just quietly sell it then." Eso says. The boy replies, "Yes, you can sell it on the black market. Noble families go crazy collecting unique things, so this would be an easy way out." We see that the boy likes the mirror very much. Isu says, "Can you keep this?" The boy gets very shocked and says, "Really, I can keep this? But wait 1 second. Will you have any conditions in exchange? Because there is no such thing as free in this world." After that, Isu asks the boy, "Then let me ask a question. You came from Pussing, right? Aren't there any other villages around?" The boy replies, "There's a big village named Rin that's 2 hours away from here, but I like Laden more." Isu asks why. The boy says, "Because the people here aren't greedy and they also sell good quality hay at a cheap price, so the horses like it. And of course I can't forget the delicious food made by our Aunt Humphrey." Isu thinks in his mind, "It seems everybody loves Aunt Humphrey's food." Then Isu asks, "What about Armenia City?" The boy says, "It's really a good place to live. It's just that the houses are really expensive." Isu asks, "Is it too expensive?" Then Isu thinks, his words remind me of Seoul's prices. Then the boy tells him, "A hut in this village is 20 gold. That's about the price of a horse. By the way, Mr. Isu, wait for a while. I want to give you something." The boy gives something to Isu and says, "This is our house. The first floor is a store. If you have any thoughts of working, you're always welcome." Isu asks, "So suddenly?" The boy says, looking at you, I can tell that you belong to a rich family, that's why I'm suggesting it, and it looks like you will be popular with women here, but of course you aren't my type. Then Isu replies, that's too bad, but you're not my type either. The boy laughs and says, I'll go back to my father now. While leaving, the boy tells him, if you get us another mirror I will sell it for you. Isu asks, you will? The boy says, yes, with this quality, if we put it in an auction it will be worth a lot. If you promise to supply us the most, we will give you the best rate. In the next scene, Su is back at his home and thinks, I want to go back again. He is feeling very hot, so he turns on the AC and thinks, when will this hot season end? I just want to live in Lawton, selling black pepper. Then he opens the fridge and takes out ice cream. He enjoys eating it and says, that soft ice cream inside this fluffy bread and the sweetness of the cookies and cream and the little cookie pieces embedded, it's giving a nice chewing texture. He becomes happy and finally decides that he will leave his job. Then he starts searching for the price of black pepper on the computer. He sees 1 kg of black pepper 101, which is very cheap. Then he thinks, if I were to sell it for 2 gold per pound, that means 4 gold per kilogram. I can get 4 million won for 10 kg. Thinking about all this, he becomes very happy and says, tomorrow I will go to the office and submit my resignation. In the next scene we see Izo going to his manager, Park. Manager Park tells him, I've told you a couple of times already, why are you changing the source code? You don't like it. Isu replies, distressed, but Manager Park shouts, shouldn't you be trying to find a more efficient way instead of just using open source? Isu hesitates and says, but that efficient source is where the error came from before. Then Isu starts thinking in his mind about all those things which require a lot of hard work as a programmer. Manager Park shouts again, hey, are you even listening to me? He drops some of the papers that Iyashu had worked on, then scolds him saying, are you thinking of using your dead parents as an excuse to zone out like that? Isu gets surprised and thinks to himself, is he really crazy? Then his manager continues, this is the problem with brats with weak mental health. They affect other innocent people too. Isu makes a decision, he will have to resign. In the next scene, he goes to someone's room. That guy asks him to sit politely. Isu says, I think I have to resign for some personal reasons. The guy asks, is this because of Manager Park? Isu tells him, till now, I've done everything they told me to do. I've heard every taunt and insult, but now they are saying terrible things about my parents. That's something I can't tolerate anymore. The boy replies, all of us are thinking of complaining against Manager Park. He continues, but the CEO is only listening to our complaints. He isn't able to do anything against Park, because very few people support us. That's the reality, and when it comes to Park's ability, he doesn't do a bad job. It's only because of that we haven't been able to fire him. Isu thinks, I could not even concentrate on my work while remembering. After what Manager Park had said, the man tells Ayo, I can understand. I kept you on the job because I knew your situation, but now things have worsened. I still understand where you're coming from. That's why I won't stop you from leaving. Even I don't know how long this company will survive, but I'm hopeful we'll get projects again. He adds, you are really a very good person. You should take care of yourself. Isu thinks to himself, if this dimension gate wasn't there, I would have had to give more years to Manager Park. Then he says to the man, thank you for understanding. I'd like to ask your permission to leave now. The man replies, okay. Coming out of the office, Ius thinks, I hope this company runs well even without me. Even if I go away, I believe the people who remain will take care of it. As for Manager Park, well, now I have nothing to do with him. In the next scene we see Asu preparing to go to another world with both black pepper and sugar to start a business. He says to himself, I had 41,000 won in my bank, and I had 100,000 won in cash. Together that makes 41,000 won, which I used to buy black pepper and sugar. He continues thinking, now I feel scared to try new things, but I can do anything, and nobody can stop me now. He travels to another world, and after looking at his room he says, this place is really comfortable. I even made a secret space to store the black pepper and sugar. It's under my bed. Then we see him visiting Aunt Humphrey's house. Aunt Humphrey thinks he has come to eat food, but he says he has something to show her, and also something to give her. Aunt asks, "What is this?" Isu replies, "These are barley flour, apricot seed flour, and honey. I'm going to make something called a mask pack. We'll mix the ingredients and apply them to our faces." Aunt asks, "All that on our face?" Isu says, "Yes, it will lighten blemishes and give our skin elasticity." The aunt feels a bit weird and says, "But I don't feel like putting food on my face." Isu happily replies, "This is how women in our continent take care of their skin. Try it once." Aunt agrees and wears the face mask, which looks very strange. Aunt Maggie didn't leave any gaps while applying the mask. Seeing this, Isu starts laughing and says, "Aunt, you should have left space around your eyes and nose." Aunt thanks him, and Isu says, "It's nothing." In the next scene, he returns to his room and says happily, "I like this freedom very much." This is how he starts to heal and how he spends his days in Seal City. Then there is a knock on his door. Isu opens it and sees Hans. Hans says, "I haven't seen you in a while, so I thought maybe you had left." Isu replies, No. Hans says, "Can you spare some time? Would you like to join me in picking hops?" Isu asks, "Hops, what's that?" Hans replies, "It's used in making beer. I make it myself. Anyway, how long are you planning to stay here?" Isu says, "I'm not sure. I'm going to talk to the village chief first." Hans says, "He'll be happy if you decide to stay for a long time. We always need manpower." He continues, "There's a lot to do: harvesting hay, feeding animals, fetching water, making beer, grinding grains, and I also have to protect the library." Then as Siu asks Hans, "Recently I saw a blonde-haired girl. Who is she?" Hans looks surprised and says, "Blonde hair? There's no such girl in our village. There's only one girl here, but she's a little weird." Isu asks, "Weird? How?" Hans explains, "It's been 10 years since she came here. She lives with her mother, but they don't interact much with the neighbors." Isu says, "Really?" Hans continues, "But they do everything they're asked to do. People have to work if they want to stay in the village after all." Isu asks, "Is that why you want me to go with you to pick hops?" Hans laughs and says, "That's not the only reason. If we think about it carefully, we realize that after taxes, most of our earnings are spent quickly. That's why when merchants come, they manage everything: rent, collection, supplies, and more." Isu comments, "So do you consider them your wallet?" Hans starts laughing. Then Isu thinks, the kid was right. Villagers here only make enough to get by. They'll take whatever you offer without bargaining. It's hard to imagine that in our modern society. I guess this is what it means to live like flowing water. It's good. Both of them arrive at the place they were heading to. Hans shows Isu a sample fruit and says, "You have to collect fruits that look like this." Isu takes one, smells it, and thinks, "It smells good, like a mixture of grass and fruit." Then he says, "I heard that beer in a world without hops tastes awful. It's fortunate there's hops here." Lost in thought, Hans calls him Mr. Isu. "What are you doing?" Isu says, "Nothing. I was just thinking about something. I just need to put this in the basket, right?" Hans says, "Yes." Then we see them collecting the hops together. A lot of fruit was filling the baskets. Hans said, "This is enough." Isu replied, "It finished earlier than I imagined." Then Hans said, "Let's go now." On the way home, Hans told Isu, "The firewood is running out. Can you come tomorrow as well? We have to shave the sheep before it gets hotter." "Do you know how?" Isu didn't say anything. Then Hans said, "I'll take this to the inn. By the way, you must be tired. Take some rest for a while." Isu said, "Okay, thanks," and then started running towards his home. He went home and took a bath, which made him feel really good. Then he thought to himself, a beer would be perfect after a nice shower. If I'm going to drink beer in another world, I should take some food there. He started thinking about a lot of food and said to himself, "I feel like eating all this." He began browsing food on his phone and planned to take some of it to the other world. After much thought, he picked a food item and ordered it online. After some time, the delivery arrived. He decided to take the food to the other world using his subspace pocket. He thought it'll be great to enjoy the taste of Korea in another world. After reaching the other world, he thought, but how can I eat this food? There's not even a plastic bowl here. If I think about it, I haven't brought any of my essential things here. So he went back and brought some bowls from Korea. At this moment, Hans arrived. Hans said, after coming inside, I was knocking at the door for a long time, but I couldn't hear anyone's voice. Isu, who was without clothes, was stunned to see Hans. Hans said, sorry, I came in without permission. Next time, I'll wait outside. Isu said, okay. Then both of them went to the garden and started talking. Hans said, I've been working hard to cover your quota while you weren't here. Isu asked, work? Hans replied, the hops we picked earlier. We had to clean the dust off the fruits to make beer. Since you weren't here, I did all of that myself. Isu was very surprised and said, thanks. He thought to himself, this place is nothing like Seal, but it's much better. Then he thanked Hans again and said, I'll help next time. By the way, why are you here again? And said, do you want to have dinner with me? Isu remembered the food he had planned to eat, the one he ordered and brought into this world. He wasn't sure what would happen to it, but still said yes to Hans. Seeing Isu's expression, Hans said, if you're saying yes, then why are you making that face? Isu said, no, it's not that I don't like it, it's just sudden. I actually cooked something. Hans was surprised and said, you know how to cook? Isu said, yes, but why do you sound so surprised? Hans said, nothing. You just seem like someone who only eats food cooked by others. Isu said, I was planning to share it with Aunt Humphrey. Then Hans said, let's eat at Aunt Humphrey's then. Isu asked, can we do that? Hans replied, of course, I'll get permission from my parents first. Don't start eating until I get there. Isu said, then I guess I'll use a wooden bowl. In the next scene, we see that Isu has prepared a delicious meal. Everyone is asking, what is this? Ya said, it's called roasted chicken. It's made by boiling chicken with different vegetables. Aunt Humphrey asked, lime stew? Isu replied, yes, it's similar. Eat it before it gets cold. After everyone had eaten their share, they started reacting so strangely that Isu became extremely nervous. Isu asked Hans, you don't like it, is it not to your taste? Hans said, this food, it just flipped my whole world. Isu said, what? Aunt Humphrey turned to her husband and asked, are you all right? Her husband replied, I lost consciousness because it was so delicious. Then Aunt Humphrey asked Isu, did you use spices in this food? Isu thought to himself, Aunt Humphrey is really experienced in cooking. That's why she noticed so quickly that I spiced up the food. Then he said aloud, yes, it's a common spice used in my hometown. Aunt Humphrey asked, is it not your type, Hans? Hans shouted, it's completely my type. Aunt Humphrey's husband said, it's my type too. Then Aunt Humphrey said to everyone, start eating now. Everyone enjoyed the meal very much. The next morning Isu said, all right, let's go sell some black pepper. While he was searching for a merchant, he saw a girl riding a horse. Isu thought to himself, she is very beautiful. He noticed people around her and wondered, is she a noble? Seeing a man standing next to her, Isu thought, how cool does this guy look? Suddenly the girl looked at Isu excitedly and said, my love. Isu thought nervously, loving me, this is the first time I'm hearing something like this. The girl got down from the horse and started walking toward him. But then we see she walks right past Isu and goes to Aunt Maggie, who is standing behind him. We find out the girl's name is Rose. Rose said to Aunt Maggie, how long have you been working here? You're the reason I keep sneaking out of the house. Aunt Maggie replied, then I'll have to leave this place now. Rose said, what? I might die if I don't eat the food you cook for me every day. Rose rudely says, I'll tell you this again. I like to live my life freely, and if I had made up my mind, I would have been the best chef in the royal family in no time. Then Rose adds in horror, if you refuse to make my food, I'll cut off that hand and take it with me. Isu thinks to himself, how scary she is. Aunt Humphrey says, then you can't eat the food I make anymore. Rose says to her, that means hurry up and give me the most delicious food. I brought the ingredients, so use them as much as you want. Aunt Humphrey replies, okay. Now go and wash up first. The girl runs off to freshen up. Before leaving, she says, if you add black pepper, I'm not going to let you go. Aunt Humphrey says, that's not possible. Isu thinks to himself, so she hates black pepper. Hans says to Isu, Miss JJ is so beautiful, right? Isu replies, yeah. Hans adds, of course she's a bit bad-tempered. Hans is about to say more when Rose suddenly arrives and says, bad-tempered? But who? Seeing Rose up close makes Hans's heart skip a beat. Rose says, don't be scared. It's all good. I was furious when that rumor about my bad temper started spreading, but now it's too late to take it back. I bet my driver played a huge role in spreading that rumor. It's a really cunning one. Then pointing at Isu, she says, by the way, who's this person? Isu replies, let me introduce myself. I'm an adventurer, Isu from Korea. Hans adds, he'll be staying in the village for a while. Rose starts asking a lot of questions all at once. What is this Korea? It's my first time hearing of it. It must be far away from here. Which family are you from? How much wealth do you have? Hearing so many questions at once, Iozi's head starts spinning. Just then the same man from before arrives and takes Miss Rose away. Rose shouts, hey, let go of me, let me go. Isu looks at the girl and thinks, what a crazy young girl. Then Isu asks Hans, her name is Jace Rose. Hans replies, yes, you can call her Miss JJ for short. Isu says, I see, Miss JJ must be very interested in me. Isu pokes Hans and asks, do you like Miss JJ? Hans replies, what are you saying? It's not like that. He continues, Mrs. Humphrey's food is really good. Even if I use the same recipe and ingredients, it doesn't taste as good as hers. Just then, a swan becomes very happy after seeing a man and says, Mr. Joseph, I am here. The man named Joseph replies, all right, Hans, get me a beer. Hans brings the beer. Isu asks the beer's price and Hans says, we don't charge money today, it's Miss JJ's day, after all. Uncle Joseph says to Isu, since we're here, let's have a drink together. Isu replies, yeah, of course. By the way, I heard him call you Mr. Joseph, and I'm Isu, sir. If you don't mind, may I ask what kind of business you do? Uncle Joseph replies, I sell spices in Hermania City. Isu asks, by any chance, do you know Mr. Mugo? Uncle Joseph says, you mean Colin Mugo? Of course I know him. We are very close. Isu asks, how do you know him? He came here last week. Uncle Joseph asks, did he perhaps sell some black pepper here? Isu replies, yes, but he said he only got a little of it. Uncle Joseph exclaims, come on. Isu, confused, asks, any problem? Then Uncle Joseph says, I'm the owner of the biggest spice shop in Hermania. I couldn't even get a grain of black pepper because the Medits family swept it all up. No wonder the Medits bathe in pepper water. There's even a rumor they use pepper as perfume. Isu thinks, that sounds like the other way around. Uncle Joseph then asks, that man Mugo, how did he even get a little bit of black pepper? Isu thinks, come to think of it, wasn't that what Hans ate before? It wasn't that good back then, would it be any better with beer? While thinking, he starts eating something very hard and doesn't like it at all. Isu says to Uncle Joseph, I don't think Miss JJ actually likes black pepper though. Uncle Joseph says, don't even say that. There's big trouble in Pising because of that. Isu asks Uncle Joseph, were you planning to set fire to the carriage carrying black pepper? Uncle Joseph replies, it was pretty hard to distract the knights. Isu says, wow. Just then Rose returns and says to both of them, don't you both think you shouldn't talk about me behind my back? Isu suddenly gets scared. Uncle Joseph says to Rose, of course not. Come, have a seat. Have a drink too. Rose tells Uncle Joseph, how about we steal that carriage? We'll earn a lot if we succeed. Then she picks up Iosi's beer and drinks it. Rose asks Isu, do you want this beer back? Isu replies, I don't want it. Rose asks Isu to answer the question she had asked earlier. Isu says, my father was a scholar and my mother was just a regular housewife. I was traveling after graduating from an academy. Rose says, that must be why you look rich. So since you enrolled in an academy, you aren't just a commoner, right, sir? Rose suddenly changes her tone toward Isu. Isu responds, in our continent, even commoners can enroll in an academy. Rose asks, really? Isu replies, yes. Then Rose asks, what about women? Isu replies, women can enroll too. After that, Rose says, then we'll run away to that continent right now. Her bodyguard interrupts, don't even dream about it, miss. Then Maggie brings food, which makes Rose very happy. Rose is about to eat the food when her bodyguard stops her and says, I can't let you eat something that looks suspicious. I've never seen this type of food before. Rose says, then should I starve? You really want that, don't you? Then she begins to eat silently. She enjoys the food so much that she feels like she's in heaven. Maggie says, I'll explain about the food. Rose suddenly interrupts. Wait, I'll explain. The soup has the taste of soft cream, a mix of veggies, butter, and milk all together. The texture of the barley popping in my mouth feels so refreshing. The scent of truffle mushroom is added, making it luxurious. In this it's a food called potato. It's my first time trying it. It's somehow crumbly yet soft and tasty. Isu is very surprised to see Rose's refined sense of taste. Rose says, of course it was magic. I spent some money on some wizard bastards. I did well, right? Uncle Joseph says, yes, you did really well. Isu thinks to himself, it looks like she isn't really fond of wizards. I wonder how the soup tastes. It's like clam chowder, delicious. But it wouldn't have been easy to harmonize the taste of potatoes and clams. She made this with ingredients she had never even seen before. She's great. Rose snaps, don't overreact and sit down. I only said that because it was so delicious. Then she looks at something and asks, what is that? Humphrey answers, cabbage. It's pickled in boiling water with lemon juice, raspberry juice, and bay leaves. I also added sugar to give you when you arrived. Rose gets very excited and says, I love you, Maggie. Everyone will suspect me if I kidnap Maggie, right? Her bodyguard says, if you want, I can kidnap her for you. Rose says, hey, don't say that out loud. In the next scene, Isu says, now that we're full, let's go sell some black pepper. He steps outside and admires the night view, thinking, it's definitely different from Seoul's sky. He goes to Uncle Joseph's house to sell the black pepper. Uncle Joseph is very surprised to see so much of it. Uncle Joseph asks, how did you get that? Isu replies, I bought it from my hometown. Uncle Joseph says, I'll buy them all. Isu says, I have about 20 malems. Uncle Joseph offers, I'll give you 3 gold coins per pound. Isu thinks to himself, that's a total of 60 golds. That means 6 million won in cash. He is very shocked. Uncle Joseph gives him the money. Isu says, isn't it uncomfortable to carry such a huge amount of cash? Uncle Joseph replies, that's why we hire merchants. We were just lucky this time that we met Miss JJ and her people along the way. No bandits are stupid enough to attack people accompanying the Midit's family. The next morning, Isu wakes up feeling much better. He says, so this is what rich people wake up to, but it feels kind of awkward having this much money. He thinks people here normally use just 3 gold a month to live. How much should I spend? Thinking about it, he starts looking at his wallet. Then he decides, shall I go have a look at the market first? He heads to the market and goes to the candle shop. He asks the price of candles. The merchant says, oil candles are 5 copper per pound, and wax candles are 2 silver coins. Isu says, give me 4 palelbs of oil candles. Then a girl enters. Seeing her, Isu remembers she used to live next to his house. The girl has come to buy fish. The shopkeeper says, that's an expensive fish. It requires magic to catch, so we only get it if someone places an order. The girl says, then I would like to order some. The shopkeeper says, you need to pay 5 silver in advance. It'll take about 2 months to arrive. Is that okay? Isu is shocked and thinks, 500,000 won for some fish. The girl says, then just give me 1 cooked red herring. The shopkeeper replies, the total is 2 copper. The girl says, wait, I'll go get a container. Isu thinks to himself, I guess I was wrong about her being a spoiled blonde. In the next scene, Rose comes to the market and starts calling for Isu. Isu says, Miss JJ, did you come here to buy something? Rose replies, I was looking for you. Yaja seems surprised. Then Rose asks nervously, would you go on a walk with me? Isu says, okay. During the walk, Rose asks, I heard you sold black pepper to Joseph. Isu responds nervously, did Mr. Joseph say that? He thinks to himself, it would have been better to keep that a secret, tough luck. Rose says, no, I just met him this morning, and I could smell it. Isu thinks, smelled it. I guess we can say she's very sensitive to black pepper. Isu says, actually I really like black pepper. I bought some from my hometown and sold it here to get some money for transportation. Rose replies, I don't understand why people are crazy for such a thing. Isu wonders, is it because she's just sick of it, or does she really hate it? Then Asuru says, but I like it. It's really delicious when used on ramen, when black pepper is sprinkled as a topping on spicy and sweet ramen soup. Rose asks, are you eating something? Isu replies, no, it's nothing. Maybe the reason you hate it is because some guy just uses it excessively. Rose answers, it's not that kind of problem. I don't care about that. It just makes me sick when I even smell it. Rose gets very angry, and everyone nearby asks her to calm down. She then says, sorry, I've just been a bit on edge lately. Isu says, it's all right. Then Rose says to Isu, you're also some kind of noble, right? Traveling around while hiding your true identity. My eldest brother is also traveling to gain experience. Isu asks, so did you say you wanted to study? Rose replies, no, I want to inherit my family's business. Even if you can't inherit their business, can't you at least get a store in the capital if you talk to your father? Isu asks. Rose replies, no, it won't work. My father is planning to marry me into a wizard family. You know, wizards are descendants of elves, and people serve elves like gods. Even the families who marry into wizard families are praised, as if they were chosen by the gods. For that honor, he's going to marry me off to a wizard family. Isu says, it must be hard for you to face an arranged marriage. Then Rose says, so take me to your continent. I can offer you 5,000 golds. Isu responds, I understand how you feel, but would you be all right in a foreign land with no family members? Isu gets emotional and says, one day I suddenly lost my parents and got lost. That saying time heals everything was a lie. The more time passed, the more I missed the days I spent with my parents. Rose says, it looks like your parents were good people. Isu replies, yes. Then Rose says, actually my parents are good people too. It's just that it made me realize they're ultimately like all the others. She continues, it's not important to them whether there's something I like or hate. They just want me to live up to the standards adults made. Then Rose adds, well, my house is about 4 days away from here, so you can visit sometime. Isu says, okay. After I get used to this place. Rose says jokingly, it would be better if you kidnapped Maggie too on your way there. Isu replies, I guess I should rather not go then. Rose says again, I will give you 5,000 golds. Isu jokes, wouldn't it be better to give that to Humphrey instead? After the conversation ends, Rose leaves. Then Isu sees an old man and goes to talk to him. The man already knows Isu's name. He asks, are you going to stay in this village? Isu replies, so you knew me, I should have visited you first. Sorry I'm late. The man is actually the head of the village. The old man says, it's okay, go ahead with your plans. We're already like neighbors now. Isu says, okay. That's it. So can I just live here? Isu is very surprised by how easily the village accepts him. In the next scene we see a car arriving in the village. Maggie shouts, old men. She gets angry and says, where the hell have you been? Oh my god, you got a kid now? We then see some people arriving bringing a baby with them. Maggie asks the lady, is the baby healthy? The lady replies, yes, he's a perfectly healthy boy. Maggie gets emotional seeing the baby. We come to know that the woman is Maggie's daughter-in-law and the baby is her grandson. Isu feels very happy witnessing the moment. In the next scene, Hans comes to Isu's house. Isu says, "What is it? Do you need more firewood?" Hans says, "No, let's go see the baby." Both of them go to see the baby and think that he's very cute. Then Hans says, "Mr. Isu, I need to tell you something." Isu asks, "What is it?" Hans says, "A noble is trying to buy our village." Isu asks, "Seriously, what do you mean by that?" Hans says, "I mean our village could be sold at any moment now." Isu says, "What? Isn't that a serious problem?" Just then, the baby starts laughing. Seeing this, Isu says, "Well, maybe it's not as important as this moment." Hans says, "I guess so." In the next scene, Isu brings Hans to a different place and asks him, "By the way, that thing you mentioned earlier, isn't that a serious problem?" Hans asks, "What? Which one?" Isu says, "The thing you told me about the noble." Hans says, That, actually it doesn't have much to do with you. You're a traveler. You can leave at any time." Isu thinking to himself, that kind of hurt. Hans continues, "Anyway, there's something I wanted to give you." He hands over some books and says, "This one is about one of the nobles I like. It can help you better understand this place." Isu replies, "Thank you." In the next scene, Isu returns to Korea using the gate. Looking at his budget, he begins thinking about what he can sell this time. He remembers the girl in the market who was buying fish. Later that night, he goes to the market to buy something. He sees a lot of food and ends up eating to his heart's content. Then he thinks, let's take a walk to digest all this food. While walking, he reaches the fish market. Seeing so many fish makes him very happy. He spots a fish that looks just like the one the girl was buying. The shopkeeper asks, "Do you need some mackerel fish?" Isu replies, "Yes, but please remove the organs." The shopkeeper says, "Okay." Isu buys a lot of that fish, takes them home and thinks, "It's been a while since I had proper mackerel." He also finds a sauce called samjang. Isu says, "They don't have samjang sauce there, so let's make something tasty using samjang." He continues thinking, "I learned this when I was studying abroad, and lastly, if I mix in some nuts, then it's done." He collects all the ingredients to eat the fish and says, "I took some barley just in case, because porridge is more common than rice in that place." Then Eo remembers what his mother once said. Controlling fire is essential when cooking rice in a pot. You should fry the outer layer when frying fish so that the oil comes out, which prevents the fish from sticking to the pan. Won-soo gets a little emotional remembering his mother's words. In the next scene, he goes to the house of his neighbor. The girl's mother opens the door and asks, "Who is it?" Isu says, "I'm Iyasu living next door." The girl's mom replies, "Hi, I am Mesa, but what brought you here then?" Isu says, "I just realized that I didn't introduce myself properly, so I decided to treat you to a meal." Then the girl comes and asks her mother, "What happened, mother?" Her mother replies, "Mr. Aishu just moved into the house next door." She then tells Isu, "This is my daughter. Her name is Hyan." Both mother and daughter are quite surprised that Isu is suddenly asking her to join him for a meal. Isu says, "I saw your daughter in the market looking for some mackerel fish, so I went to the neighboring village and bought some. I remembered that if it's all right with you, may I cook it?" That girl's mother says, "Sure. I wonder how it tastes." Isu says, "I hope it will suit your taste." "Okay then, let's eat in my backyard." Later in the next scene we see him cooking fish with great fun. He thinks I should fry the fish like this to make it crispy on the outside but soft on the inside. He's done cooking the fish, which looks very tasty. The three of them sit together to eat. Isu says, "This is steamed cabbage, but take a piece of mackerel fish along with some sauce on it, then wrap it and eat it." That girl's mother asks Is, "Did you live in a coastal village before coming here?" Isu replies, "Well, somehow, yes." Her mother eats the fish and after finishing, she says, "You have a talent for cooking, especially this sauce. It's my first time tasting something like this. It's really delicious." Isu feels very happy to hear the compliment and says, "I'm glad that you liked it. Now I want to try too." He finds it so tasty after eating it. He thinks I am in the ocean. He also thinks his mind about the cabbage's sweetness and the barley's texture suits well, but still, this part of the fish is the most delicious one. That girl's mother says, people who know how to eat should start eating from here. By the way, you should throw away the bones. Why would you eat those? Isu thinks. Somehow they don't seem like any ordinary mother and daughter. After eating, the girl says to Isu, thanks for the meal. I will clean the dishes and return them later. Isu says, it's okay, I will do that. That girl's mother says, let her be. She just wants to repay you somehow. Then she holds Isu's hand and says, thank you so much, I will treat you to a meal someday too. Isu says, okay, call me anytime. A scene of a few days later is shown. Isu thinks, it's been a month. He further thinks, I get very tired doing all that work with Hans. Just then, Hans arrives. Isu thinks that Hans has come to call him to do that work again. Isu asks in a very weary tone, what are we going to do today? Hans says, it isn't for work. Would you like to go to Lushan village with me? He is surprised to hear the name of the new village, but then he says, yes. Hans becomes very happy. In the next scene, Isu starts vomiting profusely due to traveling on such a dangerous road. He thinks, I should have taken meds for motion sickness. That was one murderous road. Then Hans says, there is someone I have to meet, so I will go that way. Isu says, okay, let's meet at this spot after about an hour. I will be at the pub if it gets too late. Hans replies, okay. Then he goes to meet someone. Isu thinks that he can take advantage of this opportunity to do some shopping in this village. Then Yu goes to a fabric shop and asks the shopkeeper, what kind of fabric is this? The shopkeeper says, you are really observant. This is a new kind of fabric called cambric. It's commonly used for handkerchiefs, curtains, and clothes. These are pretty popular among the nobles. Isu says, it's really soft, by the way, how much for it? The shopkeeper says, 1 gold each. Isu says, okay, then give me 2 of those. The shopkeeper asks, anyway, where are you going to use these? Isu says, baby diapers. The shopkeeper is very surprised. In the next scene, Isu is about to go to another place when he sees a swordsman holding a heavy sword. Machiu thinks to himself, I want to try raising that sword. The way the swordsman looks at Aishu makes him scared. Then he sees Miss JJ going by. Miss JJ also sees him. Miss JJ asks Iu, what are you doing here? Isu says, I followed Hans here. By the way, were you just passing by this place, right? Rose says, it's not that, I came out to observe. Haven't you heard the news? Isu asks, what news? Rose says, the new noble bought this land. They will be neighbors of my family. That's why I came here to observe. Anyway, what are you bringing around the town like that? Isn't that the cambric cloth? Isu says, yes, and Humphrey got a grandson, so I wanted to give her a gift. Rose gets shocked after hearing this news and says, what? Then I won't sit still either. She asks Isu to follow her. Then both of them go to a shop where Rose shows him soap and many other things. She says, I would like to give her more, but then Maggie will refuse to accept it, or tell her that I will visit soon and that I would like to congratulate her. Isu says, I will, and if you hear any important news about the village, please tell me. Then Rose says, the people in Loden must be worried too, aren't they? If the new nobles buy the land in that village too, I have to get Maggie out before that happens. Oja thinks, her eyes don't seem normal. Then she says, you think I am obsessed, right? Whatever, this can't be helped. Then she calls the waiter to give her a special meal. Izu thinks, in his mind, a special meal? Rose says, normally every inn has a special meal for the nobles. Their special meal arrives. Isu doesn't like it. The food was not good at all. Rose says, try it. Isu says, thanks for the meal, then he eats the food. After eating it he feels like vomiting because the taste was too bad. Raya says smilingly, what do you think? Isn't it tasty? Try the bread too. Then he comes home with Hans. In the next scene, he is just thinking about the food and says, it's really killing me. Now I understand why Miss JJ is obsessed with Aunt Humphrey. I know that Aunt Humphrey shouldn't leave Lodan no matter what. In the next scene we see Isu returning to Seal City with the help of the gate. He hurriedly opens the freezer and thinks, I am sure there is some plum syrup in there. He gets a lot of relief after having a few drinks. After that he says, something chilly and fresh is the best when feeling full. Now I feel better. Then he thinks while looking at the laptop. Anyway, is there anything else I can sell other than black pepper? I'm kind of getting sick of selling black pepper. Even the subspace pocket is a waste to only use for black pepper. Then something comes to his mind and he starts searching for something. Then we see a scene, a few days later. Yesu's trying to grow some crops by digging the soil. He thinks, there are other things I can do instead of selling things. If I grow these myself, my stock would be much more than the quantity I can bring from Korea. Then Hans comes there and asks, Mr. Isu, what are you doing? Isu says, I just wanted to plant something. Hans asks, what are you planting? Isu says, do you remember the soup Aunt Humphrey cooked when Miss JJ came? The veggies in there that's called potato, and I am planting those. Isu continues, it's easy to cook, quite delicious, and has a lot of uses. Hans says, okay, so invite me too someday. Isu says, sure, I will cook you some food called potato jian. Hans asks, potato jian? Isu says, yes, it's made by grinding some potatoes and deep frying it like a pancake on a frying pan. Hans says, that's a promise. Okay, Isu says, I will keep my promise as long as these grow well. After that, Hans says, by the way, the merchants have arrived, let's go together. Isu says, okay. In the next scene we see the same kid to whom Isu gave the mirror. His name is Mino. Isu recognizes him, and Mino is very happy to see him because Isu remembered him even after so long. Then Mino says, the mirror was sold for 5 golds. Do you perhaps have more of those? Isu says, I have about 5 more. Then Mino says, I will take it later, and goes away from there. Then Isu thinks, if Aunt Humphrey has made sausages today, I am wondering how tasty it will be to eat. I want to eat too. Just then Hans comes there and gives some food to Isu and asks him to eat it. Isu looks at the food and thinks it looks similar to salami. Then he eats the food, which makes him feel very salty. Hans asks, don't you like it? Isu says nervously, it's a bit salty, but I think it would be better if I ate this alongside some other food. Hans says, we have no choice since it has to be preserved for a long time. It will go bad quickly if we don't use at least that much salt. Then Aunt Humphrey comes in with some food. She says to Hans over there, stop talking and help me serve the food. Hans says, okay. Isu, looking at the food, sees there are only sausages and bread for today. Then he thinks, I am sure it will taste good since Aunt Humphrey made this. Then he sees some people sitting in front of him eating food. At the same time, Hans calls him, who is at the dining table with his family. Hans invites him to have dinner with his family. Hans's family also happily invites Isu. Hans's father says to Isu, I have heard a lot about you. Then everyone says, thanks for the meal. Isu eats the food and thinks it still tastes alright when I eat this with bread. The scent of the fermented meat and this chewy texture is this similar to salami too. Then while eating, he starts thinking about food in his mind. Then he asks, anyway, I don't see Miss Mesa and Hyen. Hans's mother says, I heard that Mesa isn't feeling well nowadays. Isu was shocked. Then Hans's mother gives some food to Isu, and says, can you take the leftover food to your place? Isu says, of course. Then when he starts leaving from there, he hears a lot of shouting and fighting. When Isu hears the voice, he understands that it is the voice of Hyen and her mother fighting. Then Hyen comes out of the room in anger. She and Isu come face to face, but Hyen doesn't say anything and goes away in anger. It is then that the mother comes out to call her, and then they start coughing up a lot of blood.